And now let's let the show begin because, like I said, we have a special guest today. He is a third-round pick in 2021 by the Metropolitans. One of their top pitching prospects was named Pitcher of the Year in the minor leagues for the Mets, that being in none other than Dominic Hamel. Dominic, thank you so much for chiming in.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, first of all, Dom, we don't know each other yet, but again, we spoke for a minute before the show. Very nice to meet you. Scott Leventhal, my former agent from when I played, your current agent, says nothing but amazing things about you, your work ethic, the kind of guy you are, and knowing Scott and knowing just how much he loves his guys. I know, and I can already tell you're a great dude, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you continue to put in all the hard work that comes in the off season and eventually getting that payday of not necessarily the money, but being in the big leagues, that payoff of being in the big leagues, having your shot. Just keep at it, keep working hard. Really excited to see that. But obviously, got you on the show right now. And Mets fans, I got to tell you, this guy is going to be something special. All the things I'm hearing, everything I'm taking in about this guy, he's got the work ethic, he's got the stuff, and he's ready to kind of take this organization and hopefully Major League Baseball by storm at some point. So, Dom, good to have you on, and I'll leave it over to my guys right now to start off the line of questioning because that's not really as much my thing.
Intro guy.
Rick, you're still used to being in Dominic's shoes, aren't you?
I mean, it's a little bit weird being on this side. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's, you interview a player and it's like, wait a minute. I was like, that was me. And now I'm on this side. Yeah. All right, whatever. That's cool.
Tyler, why don't you start it off, man? I know you've been super excited about this for the past few days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Dominic, it was a pleasure. I got a chance to watch you multiple times this past year in the minor leagues, to see you win the award for Pitcher of the Year, and the organization was great. So I guess right off the bat, what was your raw reaction to hear that announcement? And were there any X factors in this year of pro for you that you felt really helped propel you to being among the best in the Mets farm this year regarding pitchers?
Yeah, no, it was just an awesome year all around. Seeing the way it wrapped up and then obviously getting, that kind of accolade at the end of the year. It was really cool. It wasn't something, I really had in mind going into season or anything. Obviously, I wasn't telling myself to win pitcher of the year, I was just trying to pitch. But yeah, no, honestly, the season started off a little slow. But, eventually you get to a point where you just got to let loose and really free yourself up. And think I just kind of found my comfort and my tempo at the right time of the year. And I think really once I got promoted to Brooklyn, that was like a catalyst and kind of just sent me going. But just first year of pro ball was really cool, just to meet all different guys, hear different stories, see all the different routines and stuff, and just constantly intaking and putting out new information. I'm excited for next year for sure.
Absolutely.
Dominic, you just brought up that promotion to Brooklyn, and something that I've been really curious about for a while with you is your numbers actually got better after the promotion. I mean, they were great in both Port St. Lucie and in Brooklyn, but usually when guys get, promoted, when they get elevated, you see, at least the first few outings, their numbers dip a little bit because you're playing better competition. Why do you think you actually got better as the season progressed and you got called up from Port St. Lucie to Brooklyn?
Yeah, I think – yeah, just looking at the numbers, yeah, definitely. I've at the end of the year, we had the exit meetings and we kind of split the stats, like my year in St. Lucie and Brooklyn. And yeah, the one in St. Lucie was manageable, but I think it was really just, like I said, I caught my tempo and I kind of got my groove and I really just stuck to that. So kind of having that momentum going straight into Brooklyn and then just being all giddy because it's my first promotion of my career, really. I mean, besides getting out of the complex league, which is whatever, but I think it was just a bunch of emotions and knowing how long I wanted to be there, specifically like in the city, and like it was finally my time to be there, and I had a bunch of family out there that I knew was coming to games and stuff. So just really, I was looking forward to getting to Brooklyn more than anything. And just once I was there, I was like, this is incredible. Like, let's just keep it going,
And just to follow up on that, man, I mean, you've spent the bulk of your life pitching in Arizona, went to college at Dallas Baptist in Texas, spent some time down in Florida, obviously with Port St. Lucie. So, you've been in the southern parts of the U.S. for pretty much, the bulk of your life and your baseball career. What was it like getting to New York, pitching in one of the 5 boroughs, adjusting to, the craziness that is New York City? What was that all like for you on a personal level, not just on a baseball level?
On a personal level, I feel like I resonated pretty well, honestly. Just the way my family is, like, it's half Irish, Italian, half Puerto Rican, Mexican. So, I mean, there's really always a lot going on. And like I said, I have family out there. So I'd gone out and visited plenty of times. And, we'd gone out to Poughkeepsie and then took the train down to the city, Times Square type deal, just some tourist stuff stopping through. But yeah, once I was out there and, like, I guess, like after like the first night in my apartment and stuff, I was in a Spring Hill suite in St. Lucie for like 3-4 months. Like, that was miserable. So just honestly, if they just sent me out the door and said I was going somewhere else, so be it. But yeah, just being out there really just freed me up. And honestly, I think a bigger adjustment for me was when I first started throwing in Florida. The temperature out there, man, it was so humid. I got so used to the dry heat, I guess. I mean, I played in Dallas, so I got a gist of what that's like. But man, when I got to Florida, that was next level. Like, I had to bring multiple shirts out to starts. Like, I was wringing out my clothes between, training and throwing. Like, it was pretty brutal out there, for sure.
Yeah, no.
So Dom, you brought up Texas, Joe. You brought up Texas, Dallas Baptist. That's where you went to school. Is this right? Interdisciplinary studies, management, and kinesiology. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just studying eligibility, man. I knew I was a ball player.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is because, kinesiology, the study of, like, kind of the movement of the body, especially as it relates to sport. I don't know how much you got into that, but realistically, like, kind of the way the game is going, there's a little bit more of that science and, using that knowledge that you can gain and having an understanding of how your body works, being able to utilize it in training, which you're doing out in Arizona right now, and then relating that onto the field. How much of that are you doing? And I mean, maybe your studies didn't help you, but did your studies help you at all?
No, it's funny. To an extent, it did, because I mean, when I started out because I went to junior college first for 2 years, then when I first started, my degree plan, it was for kinesiology. That was my main major, and then once I transferred, something with credits transferring from JUCO. I don't know. I've heard thousands of stories about credits not transferring. So, yeah, long story short, had to redirect. And, yeah, pretty much I saw the interdisciplinary studies, and it fell into the line of kinesiology and sport management. And I was like, those are both up my alley. Like, I was sold out to baseball. Like, I really had no plan B. If I had a plan B, it was to get this piece of paper after 4 years and then go get, like, probably in a trade school or something like that, to be honest. But no, I think it did help for sure. I mean, just when I got to DBU, my first pitching coach there was a major in biomechanics, and he's a pitching coordinator with the Pirates now, Josh Hopper. But he taught me a lot of stuff about the body, and then just learning, like, kind of rehearing terms that pretty much I had to read through a book that I had no comprehension of, and then hearing it in the context of, like, baseball and a movement pattern. I was like, that resonates with me a lot. Well, so I started to understand that a lot more. And then kind of once that door opened, I learned about the analytics and how to read those kinds of numbers. And yeah, honestly, at DBU, I really found, like, a solid structure of, like, knowing what makes me good and not just hoping to go out there and be good. Like, I figured out, like, what makes me good.
Before we get off of DBU, because I got to ask this, my guy, I played with him as a Met, Vic Black. Did you ever meet him when you were out there in Dallas Baptist?
No, I did not, but I definitely heard of him. That's the arm doctor, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I seen his page. I've definitely seen his page. But
yeah, he's out there in Texas still, in Amarillo. That's where he's from, and he's still doing his thing.
For sure. Yeah, no, I never got to meet him or anything like that, but I'm sure he's a cool guy.
So going back to you mentioning analytics, to this point, how much do you weigh analytics in your game? As a high riser already gained his first year done in pros, is that something that's you would say you're fairly comfortable with, or analytics to this point one of those things where you're kind of fine with or without them? Like, just take me through your thought process when it comes to the numbers.
Yeah, no, I definitely now I'm comfortable with it for sure. But I mean, once I first learned about that information, I was learning, how that made me good and how that applied to me. Like I got pretty giddy about it, and I was learning like I was distinctive in this type of way, and so and for a certain frame of time, I kind of got just over invested into the numbers, and I would start tweaking out if like my numbers weren't
Mm.
just on the spot on average of what they regular are, and then it just turned to things kind of getting too mechanical and jerky and just trying to do too much. And then, eventually I took a step back from that and kind of just, I found the balance in between pretty much. So, I mean, I know that's very valuable information, but at the end of the day, like you got to go out and like execute. You got to pitch a game, like just throwing one fastball with some good induced vert, like that don't get you paid. So.
And, staying on the topic of numbers once more, there's something that I know that's been around you pretty much leading up to your draft, and that's your spin rate, especially with the fastball. That's something that's gotten a lot of attention. So I'm curious for you, when you look at your RPMs, I know that they've been above average for your heater, for example. I mean, even above average from MLB pitchers, for instance. I mean, it's a big deal. So for you, is this something that you purposely built up over time, or is it something simply that was natural that came? Because I think of example, Mets reliever Seth Lugo. He spent years and years on end building his spin rate with his curveball, and that's something that I really pride himself in. So I'm just curious for you, what has that process been like with having, such an above average spin rate with your heater and overall pitches?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something I picked up over time. I started out as an outfielder, and then once I made varsity in high school, that's when I got turned to a PO. But so I kind of always knew I had a good arm. I knew I could just like I like throwing the crap out of a ball when I was an outfielder. So I was always doing long toss and doing janitor throws during in and out and all that. But yeah, I guess I kind of knew I had a chooch on me. And then once I got to junior college, I was getting off the bump more, starting to work as a starter, and we're starting to see how that late life kept playing. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm starting to throw harder. That's awesome. And then, like I said, DBU learned that whole analytics side. And yeah, pretty much like the first time I threw in a scrimmage, and my coach asked if I was using some spider tack. And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. And then he showed me my numbers. And then that was really the first meeting we had discussing my numbers. I was like, that's crazy. And so kind of just gradually working with that. Like I started, like I said, I like doing long toss, but I started modifying the long toss where it wasn't as much as like an intensity, like max long toss, but kind of just working on like a perfect rainbow, just getting that right backward spin and just then working it in, putting that on a line with the same spin. Just little stuff like that helped me maintain that. But yeah, no, I'm working to have a 3,200 RPM banger like Seth Lugo, but it's around 3,000, so we're close.
That's
We're
awesome.
close.
Getting there.
That's elite, baby. That's elite.
That's
It's
crazy.
elite. It's elite.
Yeah.
That's
Especially you do
ridiculous.
that without any type of substance. I mean, that's what always mind boggles me because, when, of course, when the sticky substance breakdown happened over the past 2 years, Seth Lugo was very adamant. He came out and said, how much he personally appreciated that, at least because he's someone that, worked this in his craft for years on end, making sure that he got this pitch a certain way to have the type of ridiculous break that he did. So to see more guys coming up like yourself that have it natural, I mean, that's just great to see for years to come, not only for you, but for many other young players out there. But
For
going
sure,
back to
for
you,
sure.
Joe. Oh,
Yeah,
my
no,
bad.
actually, Tyler, I'm glad that you kind of steered the direction towards spin rate because that's exactly where I wanted to chime in.
Yeah.
Dom, I've been really curious because it's pretty well documented that the Mets were one of the later franchises to implement, an importance on analytics and things such as spin rate. Obviously, now under Steve Cohen, things are changing, but in prior regimes, it really, the Mets were flat out late to the party there. So how much of what you do when it comes to spinning the ball was on your own accord and really started, working with Hopper at DBU? And how much of an emphasis do the Mets now at lower levels of the minors really place on it?
I would say this past year, yeah, when I was trying to work on spin or something like that, yeah, that was kind of more of my own doing, just on what I learned at DBU. and, how those certain drills, brought those elevations to, my pitches. But yeah, no, there really wasn't too much stuff that they implemented that was like we had a couple of clean fuegos brought out one time, but I mean, it wasn't anything too crazy. And yeah, like you said, we're kind of moving into a new age of baseball, and not all the the faculty in the office are on board because they grew up managing a younger or a different generation of baseball where it was just much more basic and all the electronics were left out. But I think honestly, like, unless you really got some good reference to maybe an older coach or something that has worked with some younger guys and seen how spin can help them, maybe that's a good chance to take it. But other than that, I think the more valuable, like, newer information you learn, like, comes from the guys you're just like practicing around, really. Like, like on pitch stuff, like I worked on like pitch stuff with my homie Mike Vassell. He was my throwing partner for a while, but he was kind of coming in that new age, and he was kind of in the same boat. He had gone to Virginia, and they had like an older coaching staff, and so that wasn't as big on their priority list. But growing like while we're watching this younger generation of baseball, we're seeing like how much these spin rates are standing out and stuff. And obviously we want to work on that for ourselves. And so, yeah, pretty much most of it was just on us, really.
All right,
Yeah,
so
and
Dom, I'm going to put myself back in my old shoes and say, all right, I'm catching. You're the guy on the mound. What is it that I got to do when I come out to the mound to get you to smile? Like, to get you to laugh when things aren't going right? Like, what's your thing? Like, what do you do? What do you do off the field? Are you are you a foodie? Are you a video game guy? You got a girlfriend? You guys travel? Like, what's your deal? What's your deal? I got to know more about you. That's how I know how to lighten the mood out there.
Honestly, I'm probably the one to beat you to making you laugh as you're walking up. Like, whether it's like a face or something, you walk up. Like, my catcher in junior college, who was like one of my best friends off the field too. Like, it was just so funny when like we knew we had to slow like something down, and he knew he just had to come talk to me just so, just for a couple pitches, give me a breather. And it was like, I know he's coming out here to bullshit with me. Like, he's not gonna say anything like, "Hey, just make sure your hands out front." Like, no, I like to be loose. I like to be loose.
Yeah.
So, no, I like that you said that. Like, what can I say to like, kind of break you out of that, like that killer kind of going? But probably something like fantasy football related. Just, you making any trades lately? You making any trades? Or so you see the roster, blah blah blah, something like that. Something like that.
So this is a guy come September. I was this guy too. If you're not in the starting, if you're not starting that day, Dom, I'm guessing it's a Sunday. It's your team's playing. You got to know what's going on. Like, come on, you go in the clubhouse and just to give it like a little flip, like, oh yeah, you got 3 touchdowns. I had a T. Higgins today, baby. Woo!
Low key. I'm not gonna throw myself under the bus, but I'm up to date. We're up to date for sure.
Yeah, I'm done, so I can say that. I used to do that. Yeah,
Rex.
I hate you guys. I was the guy in college who'd be like going up and down the dugout yelling at guys if they were talking about the NFL.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "We had a game out there. Put the damn phones away."
That's funny.
Speaking of phones, we got a great question here in the live stream, and especially for a younger player like you, Dominic, what has your experience been like on social media dealing with news regarding yourself? Is that something that gets to you easily in either positive or negative fashion, or are you quick to kind of push that aside, go about your day? I mean, I really don't know what it's like for a player of your age now, because again, social media it's completely different than what it was even just, for instance, when Rec was coming up. So how's that all been like for you?
Hey, it hasn't been that long.
Oh, wait, Rec, come on. Come on. Wait, you had a flip phone when you started, Rec. This is
Rec, you could be Wardy's dad, man. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's funny. No, it can definitely be a variable in a player's headspace. Like, any player you talk to is gonna say, "Nah, stuff doesn't matter." But when it gets sent to them from someone like, "Hey, I just saw your name was thrown in this," like, what are you thinking? It's like those are just like Twitter rumors, honestly, it's tough though because there's been trades that have gone down and players literally find out they get traded on Twitter before
Yeah.
they've learned from the team, and it's like, so it's crazy. You really just got to stay present with that stuff. Like honestly, the social media and all like the hype up stuff, it's a bunch of BS. I give credit to like all the like those young viral like high school athletes or like crazy 5 stars and whatever. They got their blue checks in sophomore year of high school, and now there's NLIs too, and they're getting all these bags off that. I'm like, bro, that's crazy. You're doing that young, but no, it could be a good or bad thing. It could be a good or bad thing, but for me, a lot of times I just try to just drain that noise out. Like about 99 point whatever percent of that stuff you read online is usually some BS. So,
Gotcha.
Well, Dom, I think we all really appreciate your time here tonight and you joining us, man. I do personally have one last question. I feel like you can really learn a lot about someone from looking at their Instagram. And so I'm on your page right now. And the picture that stands out the most to me is you. It looks like you're at Abuelita's house making some tamales.
Yes,
So
sir.
I got it. You said that you were part Mexican, right?
Yeah. See.
All right. So
Yeah.
I got to ask you, man, you're making tamales in the kitchen. What are you putting in that masa? Are you a beef guy? Are you a pork guy? What's your go-to for the tamales?
We just keep it chill. We got red pork and green pork, which is pretty standard masa, nothing fancy. We just go over to the Food City, get some, get all the goodies, and yeah, we'll be doing that
Food
in
City, yeah.
probably Food City. That's the spot. Oh, yeah, that place. But yeah, no, we'll probably start those up in like another 2 weeks, and then we'll start making some coquito too, and just all the holiday goodies, cookies. Yep.
Yeah,
Good time to be
coquito
home.
around the holidays, man. It does not get better than that.
My girlfriend's house on
Beautiful.
Thanksgiving. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man,
It's
oh,
teed
man.
up.
I love the
It's
green
teed
pork,
up.
by the way. If you're ever in
Yeah.
LA, I'm just
Oh,
letting
yeah.
you know right now. We got Food City here and the green pork tamales. Those are my favorite. Get some salsa verde on the side of that thing. And
Yeah.
Let's go to town.
Say less. Say less.
I love it. I love it. Dom, thanks so much
right.
for joining the show, man. Really
For
appreciate
sure.
Dom,
you.
thanks for
time.
joining us, man. Appreciate it.
No.
Hey,
Of course.
I got to say one more thing to you real quick. Since we have the connection, you ever need anything, you let me know. I got you. I'll take care of you. Anything. Doesn't matter, day or night. You're in the right organization. You got good people around you, but
For
you
sure.
got the right agent. I can tell you that right now. But you ever need anything, you know how to reach out. Give me a shout.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you guys, man. Hope to see y'all again.
Thank you, Dominic.
Absolutely.
Have a great one.
Take care, man.
Well,
What a
guys,
great kid.
yeah, awesome. I just loved, because I had no expectations of how his personality would be truly coming into this. Perfect. Just nice, laid back, being himself. That's exactly what you want to see. And he's just, I think, a prime example of just this new wave of players that are coming in. Like it's crazy. He wins pitcher of the year when he was just drafted last year for the Mets in the 3rd round. Like he's going to be a high riser for sure. And I know that's why I want to emphasize the spin rate too, because that was certainly a factor in the Mets drafting him when they did. And I mean, to see him already, I didn't get a chance to ask him, but he's already having solid development of his changeup. That's something that takes a couple years on end for a lot of pitchers, as they're building up to the pros to get. So he looks like he's very much ahead of schedule with everything, which is great to see for him and for the Mets.
Yeah, especially, and we'll talk about this more as the offseason progresses, as the show progresses. But this is a team that might not, we used to look at the organization and starting pitchers for days, and all of a sudden starting pitching is becoming a little thin for the organization, at least from within. And it's nice to know that, Scherzer's a guy who's got 2 years left on his deal. Jake, who the hell knows what's going to happen there? Carrasco's probably 1 more year. And it's nice to know you got a guy like Dom, waiting in the minors and just chomping at the bit, putting up numbers down there.